Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Yeah, to be clear, you want to take all the money that we make from Indiana Jones Minute and donate it.
Yeah, I mean, you've been saying for weeks, Jared, that you need a new jet ski for your yacht, and so we were thinking, well, we could use it for that, or
but since he's the one who crashed into the rocks in the first place,
right,
being a jackass,
right,
it might not be worth
it. No, we were all talking, and we were thinking, this is kind of tough times for everybody right now, especially a lot of people are out of work. A lot of people don't know where the next paycheck's coming from or how they're going to pay rent. And so we were thinking that for the next few months, while this is going on, at least as long as we're able, we were going to donate 100% of our Patreon proceeds to charity, basically. But not the Jerry fake like buy the gold toilet seat for the yacht charities.
Hang on, let me I'm googling gold plating my ski-doo.
But no, we want to say thanks to everybody. We appreciate that those of you who are still Patreons, and we also want to see if we can do a little bit of good with it. And so well, actually, what we'll do is we'll be very transparent, and every month we'll put up a screenshot of our donation, your donation, actually, all of you wonderful Patreons. And I think our first month we were talking about, I know I work in public education, and I know a lot of families are really in bad shape right now, and they are like, don't know where they're going to get food. So Esperanza Middle School in Oakland, California, the teachers and principal actually put together a GoFundMe themselves. But they've asked community people if they would like to join it as well. And 100% of that goes to buying groceries for family members.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, wait, what is there the danger that some of our patrons will be against buying groceries for people and then they'll just stop donating?
Yeah. And they are welcome they are welcome to send that money directly to Jerry for the ski-doo.
They'll just buy groceries with it anyway. But
he'll just buy kombucha. He'll just buy like the top of the line kombucha.
Yeah. Like that $14 stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, everybody else is probably super confused right now. This is our Patreon show, but it's on the regular Indiana Jones Minute feed.
Welcome, everybody.
Right. Hey, hello.
We had some sort of theme music at the beginning of this to identify us somehow. But yes, this is the Indiana Jones Minute. And this is a bonus episode for everybody, but this is also a usual bonus episode for our patrons over at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute. And as we announced a while ago, I guess at the beginning of all this mayhem, that we would make these available to everybody for the duration of the madness. What are we calling it? The madness? COVID-19? The apocalypse light? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how light it's going to be, but... Yeah, I mean, if a few people get pantsed, it's tough. But if everybody pulls their pants down,
right,
then it's not really a big problem. That's what got us to donating. It just everything's up and it's free, and we can all just sort of come together and try.
We're all like a big family, like
yes.
Some families, like most families. There's the one kid who doesn't clean his room.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't mention any names. So there's the kid that complains about doing his homework, which would be me.
Yeah.
I think it's all of us. Nobody likes homework.
Yeah, but if you want, for those of you, if you want to find all of our back episodes of Patreon that are now free to listen to, you can go to IndianaJonesMinute.com/Patreon or Patreon.com/IndianaJonesMinute.
Yeah.
One advantage you will still have if you are an actual Patreon donator is you get the URL that you can listen to these in a podcast catcher. Otherwise, I think you have to listen to them on the Patreon website.
Yeah. That's our sneaky way of getting you to give us at least $1. Not really, though.
You mean give Jerry $1 for the ski?
Give Jerry $1.
Yeah.
Look at him. He needs $1. The poor guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, usually on this show, we've in the past we talked about movies like Jaws and Close Encounters and E.T. and Superman the movie and some Indiana Jones comic books and things like that. You've heard us talk about it. And today we're bringing you the second episode that we have watched of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Drum roll. Drum roll.
Man, I guess
whatever.
that's why they
Well,
call it the blues.
Oh, wow.
This is the
Weird.
one with Harrison Ford. The mystery of the is it Mystery of the Blues? Is that what it's
Yes,
called?
It is.
It's the mystery
Yeah.
of
Okay.
the blues. Yes.
Mystery of the Blues.
And
Capital
that's
mystery.
it's the only reason we're doing this is because this was the one that there was a lot of hype about it when it came
Yeah.
out. It was a big deal that Harrison Ford was donating his mug or whatever, agreed to agreed to come on this show. But interestingly enough, was it the third season of it or something? Well,
Yeah, it was. I think
Or
it
the-
was.
It was.
Or
Yeah,
some season.
so-
Yeah.
yeah,
Might
it
have
was
been Sweeps Week.
Yeah, it was, and
Remember Sweeps Week?
So
Yeah.
what did it? I remember. Do you guys remember? I watched this, and Pete, I watched
Mhm.
this with my college girlfriend who lived in Columbus, Ohio at the time, and I believe
Wow.
it may have been a Sunday night that this debuted, and it was a big deal. It was a thing that it like came on.
Really setting the mood there.
Yeah, right. and it that must have been, I'm guessing, 1993 maybe, and afterwards was.
I want to say
what was-
92.
It may have been 92.
I'm just
but
picturing
what
the
was
dorm
it? It
room I
was
was in.
what was the afterwards came out? It was a big deal. This was primetime viewing. It probably came on at like 7:00 or 8:00 on a Sunday or something like that. And afterwards came, what's her name? Medicine Woman.
Oh, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman?
Yes. Like
I
I
never saw an
think that
episode.
was on
I didn't
after
either.
that. Anyway, it was a big deal, and it was a big deal that Harrison Ford was doing this. And so
Mhm.
we said, all right, we will do it too. It's
Yes.
Harrison Ford. It's Indiana Jones. So that's enough.
As if you didn't have enough to cope with these days.
I know.
gonna
We're
talk
making
about
things
that.
infinitely worse for everybody.
But first, before we get into that, we have to thank all the beautiful patrons. I know
We
a lot of the people
Get
listening to this.
to thank all of our beautiful patrons.
We get to. We have a moral imperative to. We
That's
have
true.
to do it.
That's true.
As human beings, we have to thank our patrons. And hey, if you're listening to this for free, God love you. Do what you got to do. But if you want to hear your fanciful name read on the air, you can join us over there and see what happens. We want to thank all these beautiful people. People like Mr. Fred will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered. My friends and I were having a debate the other day of what the best TV show ever was, and The Prisoner came up as an option.
That's a good one.
Really?
Yeah.
But I gave the final correct answer because, I mean, of course you want to say Star Trek, of course you want to say Twin Peaks, but since they are not 100% brilliant across the board, there's lots of pits and valleys and stuff and some dull spots, but there's one show, it only lasted one season, and it was perfect
Sanford
from
and
beginning
Son
to
lasted
end.
a lot more than one season, Tom.
Well, Pete, this is going to blow you away. I'm not talking about Sanford and Son.
What?
I'm talking about Freaks and Geeks. Freaks and Geeks is the most
never saw
perfect gem of a TV show from
Oh.
beginning to end. There you go. You heard it here first. Everyone's yelling
Probably
at me.
last.
Well,
Yeah.
We also want to thank Sean. Jim is on the line when we're recording North by Northwest.
Hey, we recorded North
Hey,
by Northwest.
we did.
We
That's
did.
right. We did.
It's a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
that we were on there. And
Yeah.
we had a blast. I just recorded something else with Mr. Jim O'Kane. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
No.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, I'm about to do that too. Hint, hint,
Yeah.
nudge, nudge, Gerald.
Oh, yeah. No, I told him. Yeah.
Right?
In a completely different context.
Yeah. Cheers, your mouthful. Yeah. We also want to thank 21BKT, which is 21 Beckett.
Yep.
We want to thank Andrew with 2 A's and Jalad at Tanagra. Shaka, when the walls fell. That's what people are saying these days. Airport says Hitchcock Minute is on and all your friends are there.
It's true.
It is true. Star Wars Minute was on there right after us. That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did a nice job. We also want to thank Brady, and we want to thank Brent from your mama's piss yellow puke green car.
Woo! The American
I wanna thank
Graffiti
Brian.
reference.
That is.
Yeah.
I want to thank Brian and Captain America and Carson and Chewie as a barrow in the marketplace. Mala is the singer in a band. And we want to thank Chris Go Astro. Whoops, Go Indiana Jones Minute. I'm so used to saying Chris Go Astros.
I know.
Well, that was a nice hybrid.
Yeah.
It was good, yeah. Go Astron's Minute. We also want to thank Klaus and Cubs fan and Dan, and Darth Patreonus asks, what scared you as a kid that wasn't supposed to, like, this guy's cut off, but I badly want him to be saying Mummenschanz. It's Mummen. Do you guys know Mummenschanz if I reference that?
Yeah.
Holy God. I'm a little kid sitting in front of the TV in the tri-state Connecticut, New Jersey, New York area. And these commercials would come on and you'd be like, oh my God, I already had a headache. And now there's like a guy like peeling silly putty off his face and he has a box for a head and he's got toilet paper coming off his face. Oh my God. No, it was like this. I had this like performance art thing that was in the city and it was like, oh, it's just so scary and so creepy. That might
I can tell you what scared me.
Okay,
I
what?
can tell you what. The organ grinder pizza. I don't know if that was a national chain, but in Phoenix, we had a pizza place called the Organ Grinder, and it had like one of these big giant pipe organs and like drums on it and like whistles that would blow and cymbals and all this crazy stuff.
Oh.
And I would just like shriek with terror every time.
It was just too much.
Yeah.
Oh man, that sucks. I was badly creeped out by the orange that sings. What was it? There's some opera on Sesame Street. It's like a stop motion thing of an orange, and it gets like eyelashes and like a rubber band mouth. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
It was kind of neat, but also like I didn't want it to come on. I was always creeped out by it. It was like I knew that I was in the 70s and that it was going to look weird later on. It was like dated as I was watching it. It very badly gave me the creeps.
But see, I was actually seeking out things to be scared of because like I remember I would walk to school, and this was probably kindergarten or first grade, and my mom said, be careful of like old kids because they might kidnap you.
Oh my God.
And so I remember like,
thanks, Mom.
Kids would ride by on their bikes, like maybe middle school or junior high kids. And I'd yell like, hey, do you kidnap kids? And like, of course they say yes. And I would like run home shrieking.
Who's asking? Wow.
So my mom had to walk me to school after that.
Oh man.
It was her fault. It was her fault. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the street mapped out by bullies.
Oh, you mentioned that before.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it was, bullies. But I suppose, bullies are supposed to scare you, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Things that aren't supposed to scare you. You know what? Father Beaker's marionettes.
You don't even have to describe that.
No,
you don't even have to get into the details of that. That scares me now, just hearing those words together.
There you go.
Wow. Good grief. Lady Elaine Fairchild, she freaked me out on on Mr. Rogers. Ugh,
yeah.
Thanks a lot, Darth Patreonus.
Wait, do your Lady Elaine Fairchild. do it.
Me? I have a Lady Elaine Fairchild?
Did you?
Do I even know she talks?
Fred Rogers.
Well, no. Didn't she kind of talk like that?
It sounds like video psychotherapy.
It's a little bit like video since she was
I'm the
like,
doctor and I dominate you.
Yes, exactly.
That was yeah. Oh man,
That was
flashbacks.
Oh.
In the middle of the night, Fred Rogers. I'm going to come. I'm going to take that little choo-choo train.
Oh, I know what scared me. I have a really good one, and this is going to make no sense to anybody because I'm the only this is one of those things like you're the only person who remembers this. I remember there was an episode of Sesame Street where Oscar the Grouch dared Bob, the human Bob, to get into his trash can and see how he lived. And he did.
Oh my God.
And he like crawled all the way in. He was like, a grown man, but he fit inside the trash can. And he got the sense that it was like a huge, massive thing in there. And he was gone for the rest of the episode. And then at the end, like as they're saying, like, this is brought to you by the number 3 and the letter F or whatever. Like you see Bob crawl out of the thing and he's covered in like cobwebs and muck and grime. And it just ends with him crawling slowly across the ground out of the trash can. I'm the only one who remembers that. If you remember that, please save me and my sanity by writing in. Thank you. All right. We got to get out of this one. It's giving me the willies. We want to thank Dave. And we want to thank Death Star attack. We're going to die right now. We want to thank Guy Wearing Headphones and Doris and Doug and Eric, and Febo, and Father David Mowry. And funny, no one in modern Star Wars movie has lost an arm. And we want to thank Hillary.
Wait a minute. Didn't
what?
C-3PO had that red thing, right?
Yeah, but you didn't see him lose an arm. Like, you didn't, he had an arm the whole time. It was just red for a while.
Okay. All right.
That's good. That's a good pull, though, Jerry.
Thank you.
We want to thank Indy 5 and the search for the sixth element, because the 5 was that got cut off. I don't know what happened to the fifth one. Oh, well.
I think you missed Hillary in there, too.
Oh, no, Hillary. Thank you, Hillary.
Yeah.
I think I said him. I think I got talked over or something.
Oh, yeah.
But he deserves to be thanked twice. We want to thank, it's Jonathan. We want to thank Jasmine and Jay from the LAMB. And we want to thank Jeff and Jeffrey and Jeremy and John and Joshua, Inexorable Tash, and Justin and Kevin and Kingdom of the Crystal Scroll. I'm telling you, one of these days is going to be a crossover between Marvel and Indy. It's going to be glorious. We want to thank Lando Enchantment and Lori and Marion, the Jedi Archive librarian, and Mark and Matt and Matthew and Michael and Mom to Remy and Drew.
Hey.
And Natalie and Natsuki Best Doki. And Neil says, such a shame Robert Shaw couldn't have been in an Indie movie. It is true.
Yeah, it is.
We've discussed that one before.
He could have been
Sorry,
Doyle
Neil.
Flanagan
From
the Sting, right?
Right. Or is it Lonigan? I think it's Lonigan.
Oh, maybe it's Lonigan.
That's
Doyle
good.
Lonigan.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
He could have
That's a good
lit
movie.
the rug on fire in Last Crusade.
Yeah.
And now everybody who hasn't been a Patreon can find out what that means
Yeah.
and why it enrages Tom so much.
Yeah. No, I love everybody now, Pete. It's okay. I'm locked inside. I got nothing but love because nobody's talking to me. You go ahead with your crazy Jaws theories. Wait, I was going to say something Neil is watching. He's having a great time, but I still feel bad for him somehow. He's watching all of season 1 of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And even the most diest, hardest Star Trek fan like myself will tell you that is barely watchable. It's an awful show, that first season.
I love the one with the Traveler, though.
Traveler one's good. I like the Traveler.
Yeah.
And that jerk he's with.
How was it able to come back? I never watched any of them, but how was it able to tread water and come back? And then
Season 2 got better, and then season 3 was really good. And that's where it finally kicked in. Yeah. But I mean, that's not uncommon. Shows sometimes, you look back on the first season like, ooh.
Sure.
Wasn't it also
they
like the lead
found
into
their
the
footing.
X-Files? So it already had like a built-in audience.
Yeah. But yeah, good luck, Neil. I hope you make it through that. We want to thank Nicholas and None But Unbelievable. And oh no, it's Trinko. I just watched the Futurama where Devo appears as a they're mutants. They're actual mutants, and it's great. I want to thank Orange Bee Cooper and Patrick and Pele and Sagacious Crumb and Sasha and Scott Roseanne. Hello, Scott.
Hey,
Hope you're doing all right over there in New York. We want to thank Sean and 6 feet, everybody. That's a nice little quick PSA from Pete Mummert.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
6 feet.
Please mind the social distancing.
My son asks me every time we take a walk, why are we the ones who swerve out of the way? And I say, because I know we're going to. I don't know if that guy's going to. They keep not doing it.
Yeah.
No, you never know.
Have you guys noticed that it like I mean I go outside say to walk the dog in the morning.
Mhm.
I mean by morning I mean 12:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry morning.
and it's like playing a video game on hard.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're trying to avoid. It's like there goes the dump
Yeah.
truck. There goes 2 or 3 joggers. Oh my God,
Yeah.
my dog
Yeah.
hates that dog.
It's like if you
So
were
you can't go
supposed
that
to
way.
jump into the empty spaces on Frogger.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's in a way it's delightful because you do see the community and they are hopefully keeping the 6 feet distance and all that. I do realize a lot of people outside. It's been beautiful weather in Los Angeles. It's like gorgeous spring and blossoming flowers, and it's nice. But you come out and you can't really go in any direction, and you kind of look down at the dog. You're like, let's just go upstairs. You can be on the rug.
Yeah. It is weird. Yeah, it'll get weirder as the weather gets nicer over here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep.
We want to thank Steve. We want to thank Stina and Sully Baseball. And
Hey.
Tears for Veers and the Carlyles. And the more you drive, the less intelligent you are.
Wait a minute, was that
All right.
Pete?
No,
sound
surprisingly,
like
it was
it, doesn't
not. Yeah.
That was our buddy Sean German.
Yeah.
What are you trying
Wow.
to say, Sean?
Yeah, wow.
Now,
there
I
you
am
go.
driving much, much less than I have been before, obviously.
Oh, sure.
But I don't feel any more intelligent. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't have a car and I feel completely moronic. So
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. But we'll keep an eye on that, Sean. Thank you. We want to thank the Wilder Ride.
Yes.
We want to thank the Sac News and
Always.
Tierney, aka One Steel Sister. And we want to thank Tim and Timmy Bricks
Yes.
and Tom and Toad.
That's good.
That is good. I want to thank Vibrant Visionaries with Heidi Bennett and Waiting for More Baby Yoda, as we all are. Won't that be nice at the end of all this to have more Baby Yoda?
yeah.
And we want to thank Wendy and When Y'all Peatless, I Scratch My Nugs.
Woo-hoo.
And we want to thank, will Crystal Beth do Crystal Skull ? Yes. Moving on. We also want to thank Zaction.
Yeah.
Last but not least.
Yep.
That's everybody. Thank you, beautiful people, for sticking with us through the tough times. And thank you, all of you who are just going to listen now and enjoy this bonus episode about an episode of television from, 80 years ago, seems like.
No,
Yeah.
March was 80 years long, so it had to be longer than that.
Oh, okay, yeah. 90 years ago,
Yeah.
at least. Okay. I did some math at the beginning of this because it does. One of the first things you see, there's like a lot of snow and a lot of 50s-ish cars, trucks and
Right.
stuff.
Okay.
Mhm.
1950. Okay, and this is filmed in 92, I think. And Crystal Skull takes place in 1957.
Mhm.
And so what happened? Okay, so
Yeah.
and Crystal Skull was made in 2008. So you have to ask yourself what happened in the 7 years between 1950 and 1957 to make Indiana Jones age 17 years. Like, I know that when they made this, they didn't think they were going to make another movie, but still,
Right.
it works out weird.
Yeah. Maybe
Huh.
Mac aged him.
Maybe.
Well, first the movie quote movie starts
TV
with
movie.
TV movie, sure. It's kind of like it's like a Lifetime movie. I'd say it's kind of
Once you're done with it, you're like, oh my God, that was a
Yeah.
lifetime.
No, it starts with a mountain. That was one of my first notes. It
Yeah.
does start with the mountain shot, but it's not Ben Lomond, or it's not it's not even like a molehill, or even in the Ben Lomond shadow or silhouette or anything like that. It's actually a mountain, so somebody went out of their way to start with the mountain, but it's kind of askew and it doesn't look like any of the mountains that Indiana Jones stuff has. It was really interesting. It may have been an inauspicious start.
Also, they don't. I'm just going to admit that I didn't put that together at all, that they started with a mountain.
I didn't know.
Maybe part of it is
that's good.
because they don't actually fade from the Paramount thing to the mountain. They go
Yeah.
to Paramount and then the Lucasfilm thing and then the mountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're kind
Right.
of missing the point if that's what they were trying to do.
Well, and so I noticed Harrison Ford gets second billing after Sean Patrick Flannery.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought
Sure.
that was very interesting. I mean, because, I don't know, Hollywood and all that, you get
Yeah.
Harrison Ford. I could see him getting first billing, even
Well-
though he's in it for like 6 minutes and 28 seconds.
Yeah. Well, this kid's been the star of the show for a year or so.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
Harrison Ford's a guest. Crying out loud.
And we get. I like that Harrison Ford is wearing a beard. And
Yeah, I like this.
apparently
Indy.
they were just starting to get ready to film The Fugitive, so that's why he was. had
Oh,
the beard.
really?
Nice.
Yeah.
I
I
like
think,
how you
from
said
what I hear, they did everything they could to make this as easy as possible for him. Like, apparently, like,
don't say.
this was filmed on his property, I think, in Wyoming.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
Can we come over and make an Indiana Jones just real quick in your yard? All right.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
bring
not shaving my beard.
We'll bring the clothes.
Yeah. We'll bring the hat. Bring the saxophone. The Indiana Jones saxophone.
Oh, jeez. I don't know. I feel like there's an elephant in the room here.
All right.
Pete, you say it. You're the nicest one of all of us.
Do it.
Do it.
Do
Say
it,
it.
Pete.
I don't know which elephant
Say
you're
it.
talking about because I've seen a few.
Yeah. Seen
Well,
pink
that's-
elephants.
Yeah, say all of them.
You first.
You can say it, Jerry. Don't be
All right,
shy.
all right. I this was hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
This was
We said, hey, if we have to watch an episode of the TV show that we're not that interested in, let's watch the one with Harrison Ford. How bad could it
Yeah.
be?
and
It's got Jeffrey Wright and stuff. It's got
Yeah.
Keith David and Jane Krakowski and stuff. It's got all these cool people. It's probably all right.
And I feel like this is under our contract. It's Indiana Jones and it
Yeah.
has Harrison Ford. So I don't feel bad. I feel like we did have to do this. No problem.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was hard. It was hard. I wonder if this is to Indiana Jones what the holiday special is to Star Wars.
I sincerely enjoy the holiday special. As
Yeah, I
goofball
do
as it
too.
is.
Actually, yeah.
It's got a lot of
Watched the holiday
charm.
special like 30 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
All
holiday special shot for something. I don't know what it was shooting for, but it tried
Yeah.
to do something.
Yeah.
It was glorious
And,
in its car wreckedness.
Yeah, it was. And I don't feel like that same inspiration was behind this episode of television. I feel we should. I mean, I know people love this show. People love this
Yeah.
show. They're excited about it. It's as much a part of Indiana Jones to them as the movies are. And I think the three of us don't share that opinion. And we want to try to be cool about it, and not hurt anybody's feelings or turn anybody off by being grumps about it.
Well,
But yes, I found this a very, very, very long hour and a half.
I would
Well,
also
that-
like
see,
to say I enjoyed the very first episode of Young Indiana Jones.
yeah.
I actually enjoyed that. I did not enjoy at least the first 3/4 of this episode.
Yeah. And I think based on just the comparison between those two, I bet, because I agree, I like that first one better than this one. And I would imagine that there are many episodes that would do a better job of placing Indiana Jones, even young Indiana Jones, in situations that just sort of made more sense for him or something.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like I don't want to jump ahead and stuff, but I'm going to jump ahead because I can.
Yeah,
'Cause
go
I'm
right ahead.
locked inside my house. I can do what I want.
Listen.
What?
We're not donating the money. We're giving it all away.
Right.
So it's fine. Jump the hell
Yeah, we
ahead.
can
We're
do-
just
All
giving
right,
it
thank you.
away. Yeah, we're just giving the money away. We don't want.
Right.
We just.
Doing
I
this
don't
for
want
free,
the.
so we're doing
Yeah,
it our way.
I don't want the money for this damn show.
Right. No, I think there's a lot. Okay, Indiana Jones when he's in Chicago in what is it, the 30? No, it must be
20s.
like the
No, like
20s.
1920.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
1920.
So like right
And
before
he-
Al Capone gets famous.
right.
Which
he's-
happens in this episode.
Exactly, yeah. The Forrest Gump nature of the show.
Yeah.
But it's okay. In the first episode, he's involved in like he gets in with like Pancho Villa and stuff. He's like suddenly in like a Mexican Revolution that he has no idea about. So he's got this kind of, what's going on? Who is this? What do you mean? Like what's this whole thing about? Like what's going on? So he's got that kind of Jiminy Jillikers, like young, big-eyed kind of wonder about stuff, and he's learning as he goes, and he's in a situation he didn't mean to be in and stuff. But here he's living in a city, he's living in Chicago, and he keeps being faced with stuff like "Hey kid, that's the Negro part of the beach. You're not supposed to go over there." And he's like, "Huh? What do you mean? There's some kind of issue with white people and black people? What do you like?" He's got the same exact like dumbfounded expression throughout the thing, which is just totally unwarranted. If he's like an intelligent human being who's going to college and stuff, and he's in Chicago and he's like
traveled
just
all
lived
over
on
the
the
world.
earth for a while. He's traveled all
Yeah.
over the world. He's seen all sorts of stuff, but he's never seen anything that can prepare him for the idea that there might be racism in America.
In
And it just
1920.
feels absolutely weird. It feels completely like
Yeah.
I don't understand his character in this.
And it's so, I mean, I just have to say it's so clunky. Like, Tom,
Yes.
I was talking
Mhm.
about this with you before. I love everything in this that is discussed ostensibly in this show. You know, like I
Yeah.
adore jazz and the history of jazz, and I love all
Me
the gangster
too.
stuff,
Yeah.
and I love talking about issues facing Americans, like sociological issues. And this felt like it should have been amazing. It's like every interest I have,
Yeah.
and somehow it made me hate all of those interests all at the same time.
Well, it's clunky. It's clunky.
It treats
Yeah.
everything with a
it's-
crazy lightness. Yeah. It's a
and
clunky light.
and it's clumsy. It's
There's a
just-
scene that got me. The scene that broke me
Hmm.
was about halfway through, Indy's listening. I don't remember if he's listening to Goldie sing or if he's listening to Sid Mann playing the clarinet, but he lowers his head, closes his eyes, feels the music, and starts shaking his head from side to side. And that was it. Like I was just like, I don't know how I'm coming back from that.
Yeah,
Never
the
come
first-
back.
The first 3 hours of this are like just talking about jazz, like talking
Right.
about
But
what
not in
jazz is and what it isn't,
Not in
and what
an
the blues
interesting
is
way.
and what it isn't.
Yeah.
Not in an. And I was starting to like, is there an interesting way to talk about music? Like,
Oh my God. Yeah.
I don't. I believe you, but like watching this, I was like, I don't know. Like I watched the Ken Burns documentary about jazz. It's like 15 hours long or something, and it's great. And I think that's great because you've got like people who are actually involved in it, who are like describing the history of it and stuff, and they're playing the music. And it's not so much like, now here is why the jazz works. This is the mathematical equation that makes jazz work and stuff. Or like even the Blues Brothers. Like the Blues Brothers get you excited about that music
Yeah.
just by showing it to you. Like it plays
Yeah.
before you. You see people going nuts for it, and
Yeah.
it's just like their appreciation for it. It's not like explaining it to you in any way.
But
But
Jerry
yeah,
and
this
I
is
both
like-
took to the greatest class I've ever taken to this day
Oh,
in
yeah.
college. Jerry and I both took from the legendary David Baker, The History of Jazz. And it was like riveting. Like every moment of
Yeah.
that class was absolutely
Every
riveting.
every single it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and
Mhm.
every single at 11 o'clock. I remember it well. And every single episode would start with like Earl Garner or Art Tatum
Yeah.
or Thelonious Monk, and you thought that
Yeah.
was the apex of jazz. You're like, oh, this is the golden era of jazz or of blues, whatever it was that they're doing, and you're like, this is the pinnacle of it. And we're only 3 weeks into the class. I guess the rest is downhill. But that's what was so amazing about it.
Yeah,
Is like
yeah.
each week they introduced a new player or a few new players or a new style of hard bop, or cool
Yeah.
school, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is incredible.
And he
and I
knew
think-
everybody in the business, his stories.
Yeah.
Like I remember
Mm.
he told a story about Grady Tate. Grady Tate was playing a show in New York and he was like packing up his car, like his stuff into his car after the show. And some guy held him up at gunpoint and he made him open the trunk of the car. And so like he took his wallet and then he made Grady Tate open the trunk of the car. Grady Tate opens the trunk and there are a bunch of cassette tapes because he'd like just put out a new album. And the guy's like, what are all those? And he looks at it. He's like, hey, you're Grady Tate. And he takes money out of Grady Tate's wallet and hands it to him and takes like a couple of tapes.
Oh my God.
It's incredible. Well, he had. I mean, David Baker's story was It was just fascinating in general because
Yeah.
he played trombone. He was
Yeah.
like. Then there weren't a ton of like trombone players in jazz. At least not a ton of them that were playing sort of
Mhm.
like, you'd have J.J. Johnson.
They're very few and far between.
Right. And he David Baker played with John Coltrane, and he got in this car accident, and his whole career, like, it shattered his jawbone, I think, and his career was, he was convalescing, and he decided to take up cello. And I remember somebody said, somebody for whatever reason, and he wound up being a jazz cellist, and he that was it. He was a jazz cellist.
Yeah.
From that, and he kind of sort of pioneered or got a lot more, I don't know, just notoriety, not only as a jazz educator, but as a jazz cellist.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
if you think it's hard to name a jazz trombonist, name a jazz cellist.
And I kind of like, there's that shot in this movie early on, where they first walk into the club, and he and Eliot are listening to jazz, and he kind of goes, "Listen to that syncopation," and it just I don't know, it just completely falls. It's one of those
Ain't
things.
that
It's
neat?
like, yeah, it's just like, I don't believe this at all. I don't believe the character. I don't believe that I don't believe
Listen
that
to
guy's
those bullet
Indiana
points of jazz.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, can't you hear those Creole roots? It's just kind of like, this is weird. And,
Yeah.
and
nothing about this experience ever translates into the Indy we see later until we get to the end of this show, which I will talk a lot about.
And we do the thing that we always do, which is we just sort of scattershot all over the place, and we should talk through the thing a little bit. We get Indiana Jones in 1950 with his buddy Gray Cloud.
I love Gray Cloud.
Yeah.
I like
but
Gray Cloud too.
Cloud he is the worst character written, maybe.
Yeah.
I've seen, because all he does is he's just there for really, really ham-fisted exposition.
Right.
Yeah.
They're being chased by a truckload of guys, and they lose them in the snow, and they crash their truck, and they got to hide out in this shack. And Gray Cloud takes out this it's some kind of instrument, some kind of pipe or something, or flute or something. He's like, "This is probably the most sacred relic of my people's past." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, that's great, big deal. Hey, look, I found a saxophone. Let me tell you my whole story. It's boring."
It was really weird. Yeah, it was really weird how he does that.
Yeah. That
finds
Indy,
a saxophone.
Translates into later Indy.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. You're my good friend. Anyway,
actual cultures. Yeah.
Yeah. So he launches into the story of how this is the most secret thing to him, the saxophone, even though it's not even his. He just found it there, right? Is that what happens?
I think.
I don't know.
I guess
in the
he
cabin.
finds. So whose cabin is that?
I don't know. Probably Harrison
I don't
Ford's.
know. Maybe.
It's on his property.
Yeah, probably.
Sid Meier's. There are two things we jumped over, though, that I want to mention.
Okay.
Both courtesy of our friend Josh and Inexorable Tash Bell. One is the music is fantastic during the chase, and this is the only time that Young Indiana Jones used John Williams music in the series. But it wasn't. It was re-recorded and rearranged by Joel McNeely.
Interesting.
Yeah, and some of it doesn't even sound like it's from any of the movies. It's just got that John Williams, stuff in it. It sounds exactly like Indiana Jones.
Just on the bookends too.
Yeah.
It's a remix.
Yeah.
But you know what? When I hear the theme and I'm looking at Harrison Ford, the magic happens.
Yeah, everything's okay.
Yeah, that's like I'm watching it and I hear that. I swear.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm like, this is the stuff. And
I'd watch the show.
I'd watch it. Yeah, I'm a sucker for that every time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what we ended up being a sucker for in 2002 when Spielberg re-edited E.T. Josh pointed out that when Indy gets out of the car, instead of a gun in his holster, he has a walkie-talkie.
Are you kidding me?
And I thought he was joking. Like, I thought he was just
really
about like Spielberg. And I went back and looked, and he's really got a walkie-talkie in his holster.
Good grief! Wait, I'm going back. I'm going to get angry. Hang on.
Really?
So they could have just walkie-talkied for help from the cabin.
Oh my God, you're right.
He's eating antennas.
Holy smokes. Why even? Oh my God.
And I think
amazing.
Josh mentioned that. I think this goes back to what Jerry was saying, and you were saying, Tom, about they wanted to make this as easy as possible for Harrison Ford. And it's like he just had those set walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Like, move over to the snowdrift, and he
that is
takes
weird. Yeah. Oh, I didn't bring a gun. I brought a walkie-talkie. Let's just go.
Well, so
We'll do it in one.
when you say like the Star Wars holiday special was going for something, so this was clearly going for something too.
Yes.
And so so by the very end, where you see all of it together, what are they trying to do? What is this going for?
I'll tell you what. I can't. Well, to me, what makes it bad? I don't want to say that because I know a lot of people love this, and I'm not trying to be dismissive or insulting. What made me dislike it, I think, was that it was going for something which was a very nice message. You know, they were talking about racism, they were talking about systemic racism, and all these things. But A, it was really poorly done. B, it was really sappy. But C, it was so earnest.
Yeah.
And I think when you mix those three things together, you come up with something that's really not good.
And not to spoil anything, all these things are just sort of tossed in there, and none of them have anything to do with each other or with the story. They're just kind of tossed in there. Really a story for I guess it's Chicago in the 20s. I guess we should say something about this stuff. All right.
But the first 3/4 of it, there almost is no story.
No story, Pete. Just nothing happens.
Indy learns how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Oh my Lord!
And over and over.
He delivers some food. Okay, so Harrison Ford. Okay, so he flashes back to he's going to bore his friend with the story of him being a waiter in Chicago and how he learned about the blues. And so he's a waiter at some fancy jazz club. I guess it's a prohibition speakeasy kind of place.
Colosimos.
Colosimos, and so that's his, and through that he's seeing these amazing jazz bands, and taking a protractor to them and measuring them and studying all the joy out of it. And he wants to play too, and he gradually ingratiates himself with these guys. But okay, I'll tell you in 1 minute what happens in the first 3 hours of this thing. He meets this jazz musician. You guys tell me his name because I didn't bother to learn it.
It's Sidney Bechet.
Yeah, he's real.
Which doesn't, who is a real guy, and they do have a little disclaimer at the end that said, although this is Indiana Jones, half of this stuff is bullcrap. They do say, because
although this is Indiana Jones.
No, they do, and you're like
made with the Indiana Jones stamp of authenticity.
Yeah, and they're like a lot of the characters, although real characters, sort of have fictitious places or whatever, and you're like, Sidney Bechet would be one of them. I mean, I don't think it's kind of confusing because you're like, I don't look. I looked up a little bit of Sidney Bechet. I don't think he spent that type of time in Chicago. And they say at one point, like, you were playing like with, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into it, but he's, clearly like from New Orleans and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they spend the first 3 hours of the thing. Right.
Yeah.
But they spend the first 3 hours just talking about the blues and about jazz, literally just talking about it. And he tries to play stuff, and he says, "No, you got to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for the rest of your life." And there are a couple of instances of like, some like jerk drunk white guy in a club being like, "Hey, you talking to those guys? What's the matter with you? You don't like your own people or something like that?" And he's like, "What? But they're my friends." And like, it's very ham-fisted and weird. And I mean, like, this is Indiana Jones. I know he's young. I know he's like years removed from the guy we meet in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but he's like, he has no personality and no reaction to anything. He doesn't do a thing for the first 3 hours of this.
And he's already traveled literally all over the world and experienced all these incredible things. It seems like he would know some of these things.
He's killed people.
Yeah. He can't remember how many.
Well, I'll say I don't believe that. Pete, let me go. Let me just go to you. Does Indiana Jones like and listen to jazz?
No.
That's a really good question.
I can't see that at all.
I can't see that at all too either. Like maybe Glenn Gould or something like that. You know what I mean? Or I don't know.
Glenn Miller.
Or
I was going to say Glenn Miller.
Or that. I mean, I don't think. I just don't.
Glenn Gould
see
was the
this
classical guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant. I think I could.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. No, I could see Indiana Jones putting on some classical music or something. It
Yeah,
never
like
crossed
he
my
put on like
mind.
Rachmaninoff or
Yeah.
something, or
Yeah, exactly. To maybe be in the background or something like that. But I don't
yeah.
see this or understand this, or I mean, and look, yeah, I love jazz. I
Oh
absolutely
yeah, me
love
too.
jazz.
That's my favorite
And-
music. Yeah.
And one of the things that I think I actually thought the music in this was really well done. I liked
Mhm.
the music in the when they there was a hell of a lot of it for an Indiana Jones movie.
my
There's a
God.
lot,
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of just pieces, and I liked it. You know,
Yeah,
I
no, I
liked
like
this
the music was
period of
nice.
music.
Yeah.
I thought it
Yeah.
was cool. By the way, that piano player is Forrest Whitaker's brother.
Yeah.
Oh my
I had
God,
to look
he
that
looks
up
so
because
much
I was
like him.
looking.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was looking. I'm like,
Wow.
wait, that is not Forrest Whitaker, but he looks exactly like Forrest
Yes,
Whitaker.
that's Forrest Whitaker's
He
brother.
he is hands down the best part of this episode.
He's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
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 He's
It's-
like that. Like everybody in the band sort of acts like they're, like characters, like they're people.
Mhm.
And but like, I mean, you got like Indiana Jones is roommates with a guy named Eliot who wants to go into law enforcement. So it turns out he's Eliot Ness. And
Yeah,
for
this whole
some
thing-
reason, this guy is in full like George McFly mode the entire time. He's like
yeah.
bug-eyed and like overacting stuff and just, do you realize there's alcohol in these beverages? And like, why am I watching this? Why is this happening to me? Why is this in an Indiana Jones story?
The best thing is the whole thing. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
And the best thing is this whole thing turns out to be a prequel for the Untouchables.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. The Young Eliot Ness Chronicles.
Yeah.
It was,
And what
no,
really
I-
sucks about this is Jeffrey Wright is playing, I already forgot his name. You just talked about him for 10 minutes and I forgot it. The musician.
Sidney.
Oh, Sidney Bechet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays Sidney Bechet, Jeffrey Wright, who's awesome. Like this is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's
guess
good.
20 or 30 years before he got great, but he's it's almost like it's like because there's like him, there's like Jane Krakowski, usually good. There's all these people in this.
Mhm.
Like Keith David shows up, and it's almost like it's like a meta thing. Like George Lucas knew that these guys were going to be great, but instead of showing them when they were awesome, he showed them when they were much younger and less talented and more
Yeah.
boring, like he did
Yeah.
with the prequels. Like, everybody likes Luke Skywalker. I'll show you his
Yeah.
dad when he was a kid.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he got Frank Vincent to play Mr. Torrio.
Oh
And
my
that's
God, Billy
amazing.
Batts shows up. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
he's the
incredible.
most wooden, boring guy. He's just like,
oh my
kid.
God. You don't rest until you find out how I killed who shot my uncle. You got that? Now go get your shine box.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't know.
I don't know either, fellas.
Yeah.
One thing
it's-
one thing that as we're going along, when he takes his roommate Eliot Ness out to the college party,
Mhm.
and Indy plays some jazz, and everyone gets angry at him because he's playing that horrible brothel music.
right.
But at some point, literal Susie Cuteskirt comes up.
Yeah.
Oh, I have the exact
And-
same
Yeah.
note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Indy
Yeah.
completely ignores her, and I'm wondering,
Yeah.
is she too old for Indy even at this point? Like, is now that he finally has an age appropriate
She's
Susie
a junior.
Cuteskirt,
Forget
and
it.
he's not at all interested.
That's amazing. Or she's the one who got away. He's kicking himself ever since then for letting her
Oh,
get away.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Now he's chasing every Susie
Yeah.
Cuteskirt.
It's like starting a month from the show, he's having a midlife crisis.
Right.
He's just he has like a 57-year midlife crisis.
Yeah, and the best part, her
He's trying
name's
to
actually
relive it.
Susie. Like,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
show. Yeah,
She's the one.
he is a horrible roommate though. Eliot Ness has a point. Like, Elliot's trying
Yeah.
to study, and like he's got a big test the next morning, and Indy's just like playing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" over and over and over
Yeah.
on his soprano sax.
Yep.
Coming in late from his speakeasies and stuff at 4 a.m.
Yep.
Leaves his socks on Elliot's bed.
By the way, speaking of our notes, I just you mentioned he played at that I don't know what it was, some club, some garden club or something. It seemed
Oh,
like
the Royal Garden. Yeah.
Yeah. And he gets up and he plays and he goes into this brothel music. And before that happened, I wrote prediction: Marty McFly. Like he's gonna go nuts in ways that the audience can't handle.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be dumbfounded.
Yeah.
But your
Yeah.
kids will love it.
I like that, when they first, like, he and Elliot go to the speakeasy to catch the show, the sort of after hours show, and they sneak off and they go down there to catch some jazz, and they show up, they sit down, and the waiter comes over, he's like, "What'll it be?" And Indy's like, "2 waters." And you're just like, wow. So they're showing up to see the free music, and they don't even
for dipping.
Yeah, they don't even like get cranberry juice. I dig that they can't, but you're like, they show up to get the free music. They're not really supposed to be there anyway, and they order 2 waters. You're like,
to Indy's credit, though, he is unfazed when he finds out that there's booze in it.
It's
like
gin,
Eliot
yeah.
Ness's head falls off, but he's
Oh,
like, "Oh, I
sure.
guess they put some booze in it."
Yeah, but I mean, but Eliot Ness's head falls off because it's dumb. This is
That
dumb.
scene is amazing, where they start Eliot Ness like starts bumping into everybody, and some guy takes his hat off of his head and starts throwing it around the room. And Eliot Ness is running around the room trying to get his hat back.
And the best part of it is, like, the 70-year-old man is the biggest jackass bully ass of all. Like, the 70s, like, "Oh, you beatie!" Yeah, and the guy's like 70 and he throws it. He's getting bullied by like a 70-year-old.
Yeah.
God, that was like because my note right after that is, so far this sucks.
Yeah.
That's my note. I'm like,
I have a lot of notes like that. Oh my God, it's only been 17 minutes.
No,
Okay,
I watched this
go
for
ahead.
like 16 hours. Like, this took me like 16 hours to watch. I mean, it just goes and goes and goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is, okay, it does start to, and you mentioned this before, Pete, and you didn't sound too into it, and I don't blame you, but he goes with Boucher to his church, and he meets, is that his family that he meets?
No,
Or are
that's
they just
Goldie's
people
family.
that he knows?
I think that's
Oh,
Goldie's
it's Goldie's family. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
She's the singer. Yeah.
and he goes to lunch. He goes to their house and they have lunch. And he gets into a conversation with her brother about, and they bond over how they were both in the war and how many people did you kill and what's it like. And he gets into a thing about like how, hey, what's really horrifying is when you come back from the war and there's no jobs for you and everything. And he and his dad kind of get in an argument. And yeah, it is all very kind of hammy and sort of like, dialed back to one or something. It's like very, very weak and limp. But you're like, okay, if the mission of this show is to show Indiana Jones traipsing through history and interacting with different, people and movements and periods and stuff, then this is kind of what it's supposed to be doing. Like, I could see a white kid in 1992 watching this and be like, oh my God, I never really thought of that. Like, I guess things are really tough for some people and I'm having a kind of easy time.
Good. That's nice.
And I kind of started paying attention then. I'm like, okay, oh my God, they stopped talking about jazz. They're having a conversation about something actually real. Like, this might actually lead to a story or something in this episode of television.
And that was the debate between the dad and the son there, I think, was the best part of this episode until we get up to the whole bootlegging thing. But I feel like that dinner scene could have been so riveting, and it could have been like the stuff they were talking about, because it was so real, and like they're talking about real things, and it just felt so safe. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good way. I thought that dinner scene was just very, very strange and poorly done, because it's like they sit down and it's like, you're in the war. I was in the war. Yeah, but listen, Junior, and it's just like, this is really strange and not what would happen. And
we're not going to learn anything about our main character at this dinner table.
Yeah,
we're not going to get into the psyche of Indiana Jones while I'm trying to eat.
Yeah, we are all red herrings. We're not going to learn about any of us in any of the rest of the show.
Yeah, we'll have this conversation again in a few minutes, and then that's it. Then we'll just drop it like a stone.
It's again, I think that would have been really, it's a fascinating topic. It could have been something that, as you said, like the show, if that was what the show was trying to do, and that makes a lot of sense. It could have been great, but it was really odd and clumsy. And it was just strange. It was just a strange scene to watch. And it wasn't because of the subject matter or the topic. It was just clumsy.
And I do wonder if it would feel more normal, or if it would have gone down easier if we hadn't been sort of numbed by like an hour of just this kind of filler jazz. Like, I have the very strong feeling that this was just a regular hour-long episode that was about maybe this and maybe the bootlegging stuff.
I think a lot of these were.
And then Indiana or Harrison Ford showed up, and they're like, "Oh, we got to make it into a TV event or something. And it'll be 2 hours." And I don't know. I could be wrong. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because oh my God, the music stuff goes absolutely nowhere forever. It just doesn't
it
stop.
literally goes nowhere. Like it just
yeah.
I mean, we get a punchline at the end from it, but other than that,
you know, one of my favorite things though is one thing that Indiana Jones does say about jazz. He says, "quote It's amazing. They just make it up as they go."
That's pretty.
And I was like, "There you go." It's the one thing that he got from jazz, and he kept.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's good. That's good. There is one line that Sid tells Indy that I like, as he says, "The best way to get confident is to learn one thing at a time," and I thought that was actually really nice advice.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I think that's what also makes this really hard for me is there was so much in this that could have been great. Like there were a couple of good lines. The subject matter could have been amazing. It just, they didn't tell a story, and they put it together in such a clunky way. It just grates on me.
Yeah.
See, I have my favorite quote, and it comes from one of the songs.
Okay.
It's sometimes he's up long before dawn, trimming the hedges all night long. And I thought to myself, my God, can you say that in 1992 on ABC on Sunday night? I was like,
what's Dr. Quinn gonna say?
Yeah.
I think in 1992 on primetime it went over everybody's heads just like it did in 1920. Like I think people heard that and just went right over their heads.
Those hedges. Yep. Trimming. Sing it.
Oh my gosh. I will say, I studied the drum sets. The drum sets.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I studied the drum sets, and there's a few little shots, and you're like, hot damn, they nailed that. Whoever did the set dressing and the set, the props, they crushed it. Nice. That looks like a super old school Ludwig and Ludwig, like, from that was way period correct. The whole, like, sometimes you'll hear drum sets called trap kits. And what that comes from, it was technically a contraption kit. And that's kind of what, like, you see, they did a good job of that. The guy had like one cymbal hanging over, and he had a cowbell, and he had a big ass bass drum that would be so big back then because it was really out of like orchestra or marching bands or something. So it's a big bass drum that's like, 30 feet, 30 inches tall or 28 inches tall. And so it, like the drums were like perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's the first time we've heard that in relation to Indiana Jones. Anyway, isn't it? They nailed it.
Yeah,
this is perfectly historically correct. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. That was good.
There's the other thing the show does, and we've only seen 2 episodes, but like they just toss in like every they look up like a celebrity a day calendar or something. Who's big in 1920 in Chicago? Who do you run into?
Yeah.
And then like Ernest Hemingway is a major character in this. You got
Hemingway.
Yeah, Ernie Hemingway, and you got your like Bix, Biter Bix or whatever.
Bix Beiderbecke. Louis Armstrong.
By the way, it was rad.
Oh, I love
Louis
Bix
Armstrong.
Beiderbecke.
Yeah.
Oh, to the point where like, the brother who he's talking about with like, they were in the war and stuff. And like later on, they have the same conversation again. He's like, I want I want change to happen because it should happen because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't need a war or whatever. He's like, I'm going to study law and make change. I'm like, how is he not Thurgood Marshall? If everybody else in the show just ends up being somebody, how is that guy not? He just mentioned law school. He can't be black and mention law school and be on this show and not turn out to be Thurgood Marshall. I don't see how that's possible.
That's hilarious. That's true.
Yeah.
You know what? I think the show is going for a much, much, much different thing. You know what I mean? The TV show is just going. It's very like Nancy Drew. Like Encyclopedia Brown type stuff or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I asked you guys like off the air, like when we were like watching this and clawing our eyes out and stuff. I'm like, do we just remember TV differently? Like was TV in the early 90s just really, really this kind of glossy, kind of weak, kind of shiny, limp, kind of boring stuff? Like kind of just surface kind of boring?
I don't feel like the first episode that we watched of Young Indiana Jones was like this. And I feel like probably a lot of them aren't.
That's what I keep hearing. People swear by some of them. They say some of the World War I ones are really good.
Yeah.
And maybe okay.
Well, you have to think. So what are we, like 10 years removed from Silver Spoons? 8 years removed from Silver Spoons? You know what I mean? You might be right there, Tommy. Like, it might be like
Designing Women.
Different Strokes. Yeah.
I mean, it's way like, well, listen, Rick. Just because someone looks different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just like...
Or you said, like, Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Like they're just that kind of like, oh, she's wearing, I don't know, Levi's and like a hat from Sears. And like, it's just like very like, yeah, I guess we're in a Western, I suppose. And we'll tell some story. Like, we might, I think it's like Murder, She Wrote, but we just changed all the costumes or something. Like, it's all exactly the same thing.
A hat from Sears.
It's sort of vaguely Western, right? It's dusty, so I guess it's a Western.
It's just it's I guess so.
It's just all very light and fluffy, and like like we're saying, like just kind of doesn't land. They're not like trying very hard.
It's kind of like Inglourious Bastards. Except if you just saw, like, it's like the reciprocal or the negative of it, you know, the complete opposite of it. It's like, what would happen? You know, we're going to take some historical figures and we're going to kind of change a few things around a little bit. And then we're going to vacuum out all the swearing and the violence and the profanity and the everything. And we're going to make it real powder puff, like Pillsbury Doughboy.
Right.
Yeah.
What if history was nothing but disappointments? What if?
I'll tell you disappointment.
Okay.
Indy's after Indy meets Ben Hecht and Ernie and Big Spiderbeck, and then he's back in his classroom and his professor's talking about Pythagoras, and he brings out a lute.
A liar.
And he says, or a liar. Oh yeah, it's a liar.
Call Pete a liar.
And the professor says, or Indy says, maybe they just play music like the blues because maybe they had some disillusionment or deep desire or sadness. And the professor's like, Mr. Jones, the Greeks did not let emotion rule their music. You know, and he's like, it's all mathematical.
Yeah.
But I think if Indy loved jazz so much and he feels it so much and it represents disillusionment and how things should be and all this stuff, how different and maybe great could Crystal Skull have been with like a space age jazz score?
Oh my god!
You mean like Sun Ra?
Like not the sock hop stuff and the Betty Boop stuff. But if you made it all like space age jazz or like lounge jazz or
Oh my god! You know, there's so we get that scene where, you know, Indy's been practicing, right? And he does a total just jerk move. Like while you know, Sydney is playing and the whole band is playing, like Indy gets up, opens up his, you know, soprano sax and just goes on stage and starts playing along with them. And of course he gets laughed at and he's humiliated, and it's, you know, and you know what? The piano player is really cruel. He's like, what is that? You know what I mean? It's like really gnarly. Yeah. I know. Yeah. And you're kind of like, you know, if Indy really truly was around this stuff and loved it and had a true respect for it, you just would not do that. You would not do that. Right. I mean, I've been to 10 million open mic nights. A, everybody hates when you do that. And B, you'd never be invited back. It's if you're asked, or if you know the people, if you've been going there and playing every week for, you know, a year and everybody knows you, you know, even then it's kind of like you just wouldn't, that's disrespectful to just open up your, you know, bring out your horn and start and jump on stage, like, or start playing while those dudes are soloing.
Right.
It's just really it's really
it's a
weird.
touch obnoxious.
Well, Indy,
so then they stop their entire show to like talk Indy down,
just to be like
talking to him for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And Indy
Here's
seems
what you did wrong,
remarkably
Indy.
Tone deaf in a lot of this, and just like not able to read the room.
That's And you just like, and you know what? It's totally cool. Like, they could invite him up as they eventually do, or
Yeah,
that
yeah.
makes sense. But you just, you wouldn't. I mean, it's just weird. And it
Yeah.
also made me wonder, like, I mean, his playing isn't that great, but if he hadn't done that, they probably wouldn't have berated him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
If they had invited him up and then he played like that, they'd be like, "Hey, man, yeah, give it up for Indy."
Yeah.
But
Actually,
Gerald, if they hadn't berated him, he never would have learned to play the blues on Twinkle Twinkle. Little Star.
Yeah.
Well, it made me.
And then where would we be?
It made me ask Pete. Do you remember? Help me out here. Do you remember? There's one of those sort of apocryphal stories about John Coltrane. Is it John Coltrane where like he went and he played and he sucked? And like, was it like Max Roach or somebody, Philly Joe Jones? Somebody threw a cymbal at him and said, like, "Get the hell out!"
Oh, I don't know this one.
Yeah,
I
and
can
so
believe
like
though.
it was it was. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, this is I mean, anecdotal from what I recall. He kind of sat and he played, and it was early. Like I don't know when, but 1953 or something like 50. Long before you put out like Blue Train or any of those records. And they're like, "Get the hell out of here!" And they threw him off stage. And so John Coltrane, like, it way bummed him out. And so he practiced and practiced and practiced, and then he eventually came back and he played as John Coltrane. So you've never heard that story?
I think no, it started to ring a bell because in it, I remember David Baker, like he would talk about how he used to go over to John and Alice's house for dinner, and like she'd be in the kitchen making dinner, and he'd be trying to have a conversation with John Coltrane at the table, and John Coltrane would be playing his saxophone the whole time, and he'd start talking, and then he'd start playing the saxophone, and then David Baker would stop talking, and he'd stop playing saxophone. He's like, "No, I'm listening." And so he's like listening while he's practicing. He's
while
like he couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, why is Young Indy such a rube? Like
I don't get
show?
it. That's
like,
I don't get.
Yeah, like
I don't get it.
I don't. He's young. Okay, he's younger than he is later. Like most of us are. That's how life works.
Yeah.
But why is he such like a babe in the woods, like nothing guy?
Because he's had so much experience, like at this point, just from 3 seasons of this already.
See, I think this is. I think he's infected with 1992.
Yeah,
he might be. Yeah,
it's just the only thing I kind of come away with. That's the only explanation.
I think people had trouble learning lessons in 1992.
Could be.
He just had to beat people over the head with stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. But like, why wouldn't you think that your audience would want to see some Indiana Jones in their Young Indiana Jones? Like there's
maybe there is in the other episodes. I feel like this is hopefully a bad representation of the series.
Yeah.
Well,
I bet people out here love this episode too, and we've.
Well, okay, so I'll throw
large swath of America.
Look,
why do we have to not like stuff?
Look, I'll throw this out there. We we got 5 years between us, right? All of us. So if anybody wants to get on the crusade, and if you like if you like this, I want to hear why. And it's not even like a
challenge.
I want to hear why. Yeah. I do want to hear what's compelling or what is it that either I'm missing or we're missing, and why is it? How does it work as an Indiana Jones to you?
And
this
might have hit a lot different this might have hit a lot differently if you were, like 13 when you watched this for the first time.
Maybe.
Not when you're 47 watching this for the first time.
I mean, if you say like, just as like a goofy premise, like, okay, Indiana Jones, Eliot Ness, and Ernest Hemingway are going to solve a Chicago gangland murder.
Yeah, involving Al Capone and
they'll bump into Al Capone and Caruso and Little Orphan Annie and all of them, and they'll solve a crime. It'll be it'll be a good, even as like a dumb Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman TV show that could be fun. That could be interesting and fun, but it is not. But we've talked forever about like the Jazz, and there's like an actual plot about a guy getting murdered, and it was Billy Bats. Of course, it was Billy Bats, but
but I feel like
why talk about it?
Since it took me, like 20 years to watch this entire episode while I was taking notes, I feel like because I watched the last little section at a different time that I watched the jazz part, and I actually enjoyed that quite a bit more. Like when I just watched that by itself, it was kind of a fun little.
It certainly picked up. There was a story going on. Yeah. I still had to deal with Eliot Ness and his bug eyes and his overacting. And
what's the deal with those sandwiches that are just like mounds of bread that they're eating in Indy's room?
Those massive sandwiches.
Oh, is that so? I wondered. So did they also
want
run into Dagwood?
Yeah, I met this guy named Dagwood. He named the sandwich after himself.
I think that's maybe what that was. Because he's got like he's got like a manta ray in his hand.
Or do you think they're eating muffalata sandwiches and Indy's like, hey guys, when I was in New Orleans and heard King Oliver or whatever, this is what we used to eat.
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
No, I'm giving it too much credit. Those are just.
Well, so then they have this whole second half that's this murder. Yeah, it's
suddenly there's a plot. Where this plot?
I mean, I guess.
I want to learn more about jazz.
I'm not remotely invested in any of it.
No,
I don't really know who gets. I'm not entirely sure why Indy cares.
I wonder if the Chicago cop is crooked. I wonder if the new wife.
By the way, this is terrible, and because we're talking about, and of course he's Irish. He's all like,
yeah,
it's right out of Bugs Bunny.
Does he show up? Does he show up in the Untouchables? Is Chief Garrity in the Untouchables?
Oh, that's a really good question.
That's a great.
I'm gonna look at that now.
If
Toad is in it from American Graffiti.
That's right.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I've just. This movie is sort of the prequel.
You know what? We're talking about the mystery and the murder. The restaurant owner was robbed of $200,000 that he was carrying around him. He was carrying around his body.
He was like 28 pounds until he put that money back.
So here's the thing. I looked it up. That would be over $3 million today. If you were walking around with $3 million on you.
In a money belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like just Venmo.
Yeah.
So that like Sidney Bechet solves the murder? He's the one who gives him the clue. He knows that
he does give him the clue.
Carlissimo was picking up bootleg.
Oh, that's right.
I forgot.
Like he's the one who says it. He's like the Quan or the cornerstone that sort of witched, the investigation. That's where it turns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is they're like, and then they start investigating all this stuff and the doc and the mob and all that. And then it turns into a whole different Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like
it still does feel very Encyclopedia Brown. Like I couldn't tell you the details of this.
There's a nice giant flower arrangement version of Ron Swanson that they drive through the streets in a funeral procession.
Yeah,
it looks exactly like him.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we have Indy and Ernie and Eliot decide they're going to solve the murder.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves peepholes and Indy sneaking into the basement of the restaurant to find out if they were bootlegging liquor, and then they all show up out at a warehouse out in the docks.
Yeah, there's a big shootout.
But there's a bunch of stuff in this warehouse where how angry you got during Last Crusade when Indy learned about 20 different things later in life in that minute and a half in the train.
Oh yeah.
Or this scene here, I found, I think, 8 or 9 prefigurations of what happens in later Indiana Jones movies.
You're kidding.
No, there's a lot.
Like what?
It's
like
amazing.
What?
Well, they start to shoot out in the warehouse and Indy jumps up into the pipes and he hides exactly like they do in Last Crusade when he and his dad go up into the fireplace.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then Eliot climbs on the crates exactly like Crystal Skull.
That's true.
Indy knocks the guy out with the car door, and Eliot starts rolling around in the barrels, which was a lot like the truck chase in Marion in the Basket and Raiders.
Oh,
wow.
We have a scene where, Ernie swings down on a pulley, just like and he pulls the other guy up just like Indy does with Pat Roach.
Oh,
in
yes,
Temple of
in
Doom.
Temple of Doom.
Yep. And then Indy jumps out onto the top of Aunt Bessie's car, just like in Short Round's car in Temple of Doom.
Nice.
And then there's
Wow.
there's an explosion, and one of the cars turns over exactly like the truck with the baskets in it in Raiders.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Very well done,
And
Pete.
during the gunfight, somebody says, "Hey, what's the rumpus?"
Oh, yeah.
And
That's the best part of the show.
Yeah.
prefiguring the Indiana
What's the
Jones minute.
rumpus?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And we get
I
two big prefigurations a little bit later on too, after they leave the warehouse.
Okay.
I have a note. It says Al Capone. Really?
I do
Oh
love the
my
guy
God.
that played O'Bannon. He was good. The Irish
Wait,
gangster.
Yeah,
Remind
but
me who
why
O'Bannon
does
is.
no?
The,
Oh,
Bannon,
yeah,
he
he's
lets him
good.
go. Yeah.
So what I like
Yeah.
that he lets him go, and I don't know why he
Here's-
lets him go. Why did he
Here's
let
one
him
of
go?
the prefigurations, though. He
Takes him
gives
a
them all
long
a red
time.
carnation.
Yeah.
What's Indy wearing when he
Oh.
meets Lao She in Temple
Oh
of Doom?
yes.
Interesting.
I think he let them all go because it's 1992 Sunday night
Yeah,
prime time.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
exactly
Right.
right. Let him
Yep.
go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And also, audiences back then couldn't handle conclusions, so the story doesn't really end. Like, none
Yeah.
of the stories actually end.
Well,
like,
that's
oh, they're not going to get the guy. The cops are crooked. You know, everyone's going to get away with everything.
Well, that's
I guess I'll
another
go
big
play the blues.
call forward, because Elliot and Ernie and Indy all go up to the chief of police office, and they give him all the evidence, and he rips it up. And Elliot's screaming, and they have to pull him out of there, and he's like, "I'll get judgment if it's the last thing I do." But as they're going down the stairs, it's exactly like the bureaucratic fools at the end of Raiders. Like, they're walking down
Yeah.
the stairs talking about how nothing's fair.
I did.
Right.
Yeah, I did kind of like that part where it's like, oh, and then you're like, and that is the mystery of the blues, right
yeah,
there.
you have to be sad.
You
You
have
get
you
sad or
have to-
disappointed, you can play the blues.
Yeah, you have to get
Yeah.
spanked by life.
And Hemingway's like, you know what? I'm going to go write some books.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Paris and write a book.
Yeah.
I need this newspaper stuff like I need a hole in the head. Oh,
Yep. And Elliot's like, I'm gonna dedicate my life to justice and bringing down these
Yeah.
crooks.
right.
Jeez.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm going to go drink.
And then we flash back to older Indy with
Yeah.
Gray Cloud.
It should be like Airplane and Gray Cloud is hanging himself or setting himself on fire.
we do get one more funny call forward, kind of, is those two guys break in with the guns, or the three guys break in, and the main bad guy, the main henchman, is dressed a lot like Tote, and he does that little laugh just like Tote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
He does like the
Oh, my God.
Well, so okay. So we see Indy, he kicks the gun out of the one henchman's hand, right? And he grabs the other gun, which by the way, that reminded me a little bit of Last Crusade in the castle. That what doesn't he do that? He and his dad,
yeah.
And then he grabs like the Tote guy, the Sunday night primetime Tote guy's gun. And of course, it being that the guy's like, I never have my guns loaded. Like, of course not.
Why would I?
Yeah, it's Sunday night. And so
That's a loaded walkie-talkie. Be careful.
yeah, it's family viewing. So then those guys abscond with the pipe. The Gray Cloud's famous precious totem or relic. And then they Indy picks up the soprano sax and he blows one sour note like as loud as he can.
Well, before he does that, though, he plays like these lovely little strains of the blues.
Yeah,
because he like Gray Cloud is Mr. Exposition. He's like, what are we gonna do? They've got the guns, they've got the pipe. What do we do now?
The episode's
Yeah.
over.
And then he says, well, things can't always be how you want them to be. And then he sits down and starts playing the blues.
He's learned his lesson again.
Yeah,
Yep.
but then Jer is he pick it up.
He plays that one beautiful sour note, and it instigates an avalanche, and then our bad men are buried in the snow, and Indy
Almost,
says,
except
almost,
for
except for the arm sticking out with the
holding
flute.
the pipe above the snow.
Then they pull off his mask, and it was Mr. Henderson, the owner of the mill.
Yeah,
It was him all along.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So wait a
And
minute.
he laughs and he
did
says,
he-
"But what he says, things can't always be how you want them to be." And you're like, "That was pretty icy cold of Indy." And then
Yeah.
after he blows the note in the avalanche, he's like, he laughs. He's like, "But sometimes they are."
So,
It's like
so
it's
my
like that Star
question
Trek ending.
is, it's like the ending of Chips.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my
Gross, man.
question is: did Indy know that honk was going to create an avalanche?
It sure seems like it. That's what they want us to think.
He's
Like, he
amazingly
knew.
callous, if not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to, or else he's like the biggest asshole in history. Like, this guy's like the most valuable piece of history for my people. And then he sits down and just laugh. Too bad, old man.
Yeah.
And starts
Now it's
playing the
wet.
blues.
Wow.
We get the Raiders March, and then we
Yeah.
get his Indy walks out and grabs the pipe from the hand sticking out of the snow. And it's like
Yeah.
sticking out at a weird crooked angle, just like a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what's so tough is the Raiders March comes on, and I love it. Like
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm like, God, there's Harrison Ford, and he's Indiana Jones. He's got a bullwhip, and they're playing the Raiders March. That's amazing.
And a walkie-talkie and a pipe.
Yep.
It's soprano
It's like the old days.
saxophone.
Yep.
That's my Indy.
Yep.
Yep. I
Oh,
feel like
boy.
when you have those two things, carte blanche.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't want to say that though. I don't want my Indy to be muddied. I don't want the Raiders March to be just applied to stuff that it oughtn't.
Oh, it's a wild blind spot. Yeah. I'm just saying that's it.
You're not
we
proud
all-
of yourself.
Yeah.
You're just saying it works.
Yeah. It's just
Is
Fair
this,
enough.
It occurs to me, is this the first time we've all three been like super negative about something?
Oh wow. I mean, it's happened during Crystal Skull so far.
yeah,
but
it's happened here.
Not
and there.
not for the whole thing. Not for the whole time.
Yeah, you might be
Although
right.
you
I think
guys
you're right,
both
Pete.
had some positivity during this a little bit.
We did. Okay,
I
didn't
don't
mean
know.
to.
You know what? Like I said, I kind of I liked some of the performances, and some of that was kind of interesting. But
Wait, what performances did you like, Jerry Porter? You have to explain that to me right now.
No, I mean the music. The music. I kind of like
okay.
some of that.
okay.
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
like
Jeez.
some of that.
I'll
when
sit
they're
back
playing.
down. I'm sorry.
But I feel like saying that has nothing to do with like Indiana Jones. It just and even that
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
it was like 8 minutes. It was like
Yeah.
8 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. And by the
Yeah.
way, those were fine and lovely and they're well done. But it's like, or I could just go and listen to that music, which I would
Right.
do.
Yeah.
It'd
It's
take
not
8
like
minutes and-
yeah. I'm just saying
Right.
of all the things
Yeah.
that were enjoyable, I found that was my favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's like if they turned on Star Wars halfway through the show and there was those on in the background. That was cool that they had Star Wars
Yeah,
on in
that's
the
cool.
background.
Yeah.
It's nice to watch Star Wars.
I mean, I woke up this morning listening to a lot of Sidney Bechet, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool.
there
you
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool."
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to say, like I said at the beginning, I'm the guy that complains about doing homework, but for me, this was the hardest homework I've ever done for the show, I think.
It was really tough. It was really hard. I broke it out over, I did like 15 minutes a day for a bunch of days and it took forever and it was really hard. It was really hard. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying
No,
to
I
be
know,
a jerk.
I know.
I just really didn't like
Yeah,
this. And I'm
yeah.
a little angry
I'm with you too.
at it. And I'm
But
not supposed
like
to
I
be
said,
angry at
I
art,
I
but-
kind of like the first one. I don't have problems with the first one. It was
It
solely
does-
based on this one.
yeah, the first one had a little more spark to it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I liked it, but it had more promise than
Yeah.
this.
And it had some
And
fun.
it does make
and
me
had
think that there
some-
must be others that
Yeah.
do a better job.
Well, let
Yeah.
me ask you guys this: this being the big difference, about this episode having Harrison Ford. How did you like Harrison Ford?
I liked him in the first half mostly.
Yeah, I liked
like
him
in the
beginning.
opening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
like- I like-
did you feel like the whatever 4 minutes and 52 seconds there was Harrison Ford and it's as Indiana Jones and it's 1992? Did you feel like that was Indiana Jonesy?
Yeah, like to the point where I want to see a movie from 1950, in 1950 of Indiana Jones and his Native American sidekick in the snow,
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the rest of this adventure was. Based on the beginning of this, I would want to see that movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that
But I
seems
do not.
authentic to me.
I don't want to see the end of that movie.
No.
Where he goes honk, and then he walks out and grabs the
sniveling
pipe out of
bad
the snow.
guys
Yeah.
Meh.
which is worse for you guys? This Indy ending with the honk and the laugh and the pipe in the snow, or the old Indy with the I'll clobber ya with the eye patch and the sliding down the banister.
Wow.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I mean,
wow, do it like
boy, neither of them is
yeah.
very
What's
good.
worse, like old Indiana Jones or young Indiana Jones? Which is what I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna go with old Indiana Jones by a lot, because a
Is
lot
better or worse?
he's better. I prefer old Indiana Jones because you're like, all right, look, people get dementia. You know, they go through all sorts of stuff. Yeah,
TV writers get dementia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know, he could have gotten in a car accident, or he could. I mean, I don't know. Any of these things could have happened, and maybe it just got with him. And as you get old, you know, he's kind of like, now listen. And you're like, he's hanging around a museum. Sure, he's hanging around a museum. They do a silliness, but I don't like it. But I like it a lot better than this silly young Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I really don't like this young Indiana Jones as Indiana Jones at all. It makes no sense to me.
What are you talking about? Young Indiana Jones?
No, I'm just talking about
Ford in this.
The Harrison Ford part, the Indy half of Harrison Ford's part.
Harrison Ford in this is, as it like compared to anywhere else in an Indiana Jones movie, I think he's the worst. This is the worst Harrison Ford I've seen as Indiana Jones. But I will take this.
That's probably a given.
Yeah, I will take this over any non-Harrison Ford Indiana Jones.
See, I'm not. That's what I'm struggling with right now. Does the presence of Harrison Ford, like, I think on their face they're both kind of equally lame. The ending with the old man and the ending with this. But does the presence of Harrison Ford make it a little better, or does it make it sadder and more annoying because he's involved?
It's
in
that little laugh and the honk and the.
No, it makes
it.
It makes
Indiana Jones.
No, like it's not Indiana Jones at all.
It's like a prequel changing your ideas.
Yeah. Old man Indiana Jones, you can say like, okay, these people are making a TV show that I'm not interested in. The guy can ride a banister. It's fine. You know, it's good. Have fun. And you can just sort of ignore it. But like if Harrison Ford's sitting there, I got to pay attention.
That's actually Indiana Jones.
On my VCR. And
yeah.
That's actually
Indiana Jones. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It does suck.
Oh my God.
You know what? I just chalk this up to, like, I don't know, it's George Lucas's birthday and he called up Harrison Ford or something. It's 1991 or 1992 and he's like, look, we'll come to your house. You know, it's going to be...
We'll bring lunch.
Yeah, 8-10 minutes tops, man.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, we're going to do it in a day. And it's like, look, it's just cool. Like, everybody, you know, it's just... And Harrison Ford is just like, yeah, man, whatever. I mean, it's your birthday. It's cool,
Harrison
man.
Ford would be like, you got
a thing at 3.
You got 45 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And we should point out, with not a little irony, that it was during this shoot that George Lucas had the idea for Crystal Skull and brought it up to Harrison Ford.
Is that true?
And they were filming this opening and he said, oh, you know what? I just realized it's perfect. The 50s flying saucers, Indiana Jones and the flying saucers from Mars or whatever. And Harrison Ford was like, nah,
let's just get
through this.
This does not have to be the jivest thing you've ever done.
Right. Yeah. I know you're feeling weird about the avalanche caused by the sour note, but let's listen to this. Oh my God.
Listen, I'll say this.
Okay.
I think that this just sums up the sentiment of this. Why, fellas, I'm no longer a jive turkey. That's how that feels. It's like that's what young Indiana Jones says after he plays his one blues song, getting spanked by life. Hey, fellas, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a hep cat.
Now I'm going to play my song. I got spanked by life.
Why do I feel like we're all jive turkeys now?
me and Bessie Smith. We're crushing it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, listen, fellas, we've done it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've got 2 Young Indiana Jones episodes in the can.
Hey.
And, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw them in the can.
I hope we didn't offend anybody or disappoint anybody. I hope this was a lively and insightful criticism of a beloved character in a different medium from another bygone era called The Decade of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. But yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another one of these things. And who knows what we're going to talk about then. But it'll be something great and something enjoyable.
You said that last week, Tom.
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah.
Are you sure? That doesn't sound
Actually,
like
no, I'm not sure. You might not have. Yeah.
All right. I've given up on expecting things. No, okay, we'll be back with something fun. We hope you're all doing all right, taking care of yourselves, staying safe, staying healthy. We will be back in a couple of weeks. And please, weigh in on the Indiana Jones Minute and the Listener's Crusade over on Facebook. Let us know what you thought about this episode, our discussion, the Mystery of the Blues episode of Young Indiana Jones. Let us know if you loved it or hated it, or, are you still our friend after we picked apart your beloved TV series? All right, but take care of yourselves. We'll be back in a little while. Stay safe.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye, everybody.
Yep. Giving the money away. Giving it.
Keep that in mind.